Well, welcome to another Cutting Edge show. I'm Omar Neal. I'm one of the hosts of this great show. I'm the former mayor of Tuskegee, Alabama, and the host of the You Got the Power show. This show is brought to you in part by the University of Maryland School of Public Health, and we are going to have a great show today. Where our lineup is stellar. We're going to be talking about winding down school and winding up COVID community consciousness. This is something that we thought about because our schools are closing and our children are going to go into the community with recreation programs and all kinds of activities that the transferal of knowledge on how to keep them safe needs to take place. What better place to do that than on the cutting edge? We're going to be talking with Dr. Christopher Blair, who is the superintendent of education for the Bullitt County school system here in Alabama. Attorney Pamela Keith, who is the CEO and of Center for Employment Justice, LLC. And we'll have Mr. Anthony Nolan, who is the division chief at the Prince George County, Maryland Department of Parks and Recreation. Don't forget that this program is something that you need to do each and every week. What we're going to do now is bring forth my co-host. We have done this now. I don't know how many years now. I don't even know how many shows, but let me tell you, down in South, we say a heap of them. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming my co-host, friend and brother from another mother, Dr. Stephen B. Thomas. We call him Dr. T amongst these parts. Hey, Dr. T, how you doing?
Hey, Mayor, another beautiful day. Temperature drop here in the Maryland area, but a wake-up call that winter hasn't quite left its grip. There's some people expecting snow in parts of the country. So if there's uncertainty in the weather, you can only imagine the uncertainty that we have going into this phase of the pandemic. Even Anthony Fauci had to back up and recognize that he misspoke. The pandemic is still here. It has not gone away.
Yeah. We had, go ahead, Dr. T. What were you saying?
Until all the more reason now that we continue our education effort, we continue to treat people with dignity and respect, and we continue to boost the booster. That's the key. And you know what, Mayor, I think it's time that even the skills you bring from the elected office, we need to start advocating and holding these systems accountable, or else our communities will be left with this disease concentrated among us. It's time to speak out and advocate for the policies we need. And midterms are coming. We need to ask questions about how these elected officials plan to manage the pandemic equitably. There's the key, my friend.
Absolutely. Spring has sprung, but COVID ain't done. And I think we need to be clear. We need to be clear on that, man. I'm so excited about today's show. Dr. T, I don't know if you know this, but Monday was the Hairstylist Appreciation Day. Oh, man, and so we salute our stylists who are all over the country, and certainly they are an integral part of what we do here at the Cutting Edge. And so for all of you, and when I say all of you, each and every one of you, individually and collectively, we salute you and we appreciate you. Dr. T.
We had a big meeting downtown Washington, D.C., elected officials that gave out Booker T. Washington Awards and a number of things with the National Minority Quality Forum. And I want the folks here on this show to know that the barbers and stylists were represented. They were respected. They were lifted up as one of the silver linings of this pandemic, and something that's worthy of further engagement as we bring other health resources into these spaces. And one of our guests today is going to talk about working with youth, summer camps, parks and recreation. These are all the trusted places that we need to be with the message of how to protect yourself and your family.
Mm-hmm. And as we appreciate the stylists around the country, we also need to appreciate the people behind the scene. People see you and I, Dr. T and me, right? But they don't know that the people who really make this show run are the people to whom you do not see. Meg Jordan, who is our technical director, and in fact, she's a part of the show as well. We'll see her a little later on. Maggie Daly, who is assistant technical director. Soraya Khan, who is our social media and communications guru. Kimberly Fleming, we call her Kimmy around this part, social media and media curator, and Elijah Pugh Jr., who is our sound designer. The music that you heard that brings us on was exclusively made for this particular broadcast. So kudos out to each and every one of our team behind the scenes.
Hey, Mayor.
Yeah.
Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you fine.
Well, one of the things about that soundtrack, I saw your head bouncing.
Oh, absolutely.
Bouncing to the beat.
Absolutely. It's got that, it's catchy, man. It stays in your head too. It doesn't go away. So it's got that it factor. So that's the theme song for the Cutting Edge, man. And I'm so happy that it's got that jazzy kind of thing. It's a little funk but jazzy. So that fits us well. All right.
Imagine we put some lyrics to that.
Absolutely. Well, maybe we need to talk about that, because we'll talk about what's happening on culturally tailored messaging. We're going to talk a little bit about that today. So maybe that's a way to do it. And maybe we can get some people to write some lyrics for us, and we can figure out a way to do that. Let's figure that sounds like something we can do.
Creative imagination. Go to the community for their wisdom and ideas. We've got to do this different than we've done in the past. Let's not let this pandemic go to waste.
Absolutely. People can catch us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter. Make sure that you like, share, and subscribe to the Cutting Edge Show. We're here each and every Thursday, 6 o'clock Central, 7 o'clock Eastern. And of course, you can also get our newsletter that comes out each and every week. That's the QR code, where you can catch up with everything we're doing and kind of keep up with us, because this is a dynamic show. This is not stagnant. We are always updating information. It's always something that you can get there, as well as previous shows. We always put the previous show on the newsletter. So if you missed the show, you can catch it right there on the newsletters, electronic. So we're so happy about that. Well, Dr. T.
Mr. Mayor, I was wondering if they were going to have the Booker T. Washington slide in, and maybe they can set that up because
we got it in the deck now. We can bring it up at any time. You want to, you the co-host. I mean, what do you want? Your wish is my command.
As long as we're in April, let's bring it up and recognize the wisdom that our ancestors left behind for us, the roadmap. So this is a Thursday, and so Thursday was a special day. I don't have it in front of me, but I know one of those days dealt with physical activity, and we want to talk about that as well. Keeping ourselves healthy is the other strategy for addressing COVID. We finally have people's attention, Omar. The folks that said, I'm going to take care of my immune system, I'm going to eat better. You remember in the early days of the pandemic when they didn't want to get vaccinated? Okay, well, now they're vaccinated, and we still need to keep them healthy. So here is an example of what Booker T left for us, the roadmap, the National Negro Health Week that turned into the National Negro Health Movement. For the audience out there, 1915 to 1951, the longest sustained public health campaign in the history of America. And here it is for us to replicate. How might we replicate this, Mayor, and get our muscles, our community engagement and organizing muscles in order to sustain this effort long term? That's what we're faced with. This virus is not going away, and to live with it means we have to adjust our behaviors and lifestyles, and we need to educate people to do that.
Right. You know, and I'd like to also thank you uh, and for the work you're doing, right? And Dr. Quinn for um, writing about this. You know, we were doing research on it, and the team said, "Do you know who was referenced first when we did research?" Dr. Thomas and Dr. Quinn. I said, "Oh my, look at that." You know, so you were on top of this, man. You've been on top of this for a long time, and a lot of people may not know that. They may be making your acquaintance now, but you've been in the game a long time in public health.
Well, from the margins to the mainstream, and I see we have our barbers and stylists out there. And so the work that universities like ours is doing to reach out and be a better neighbor. I mean, we got people like Andre and Katrina and Fred and Mike and all the barbers and stylists that now know that, Omar.
Mm-hmm.
We can move forward and help leverage our resources to help get them to the next level of improving health outcomes in their community.
Absolutely. Well, you know, we got a great team today, man. I don't want to delay any longer to bring on the folk who are going to be engaged with us in this very, very important and salient conversation. Let's go to Alabama. You know, when I tell you that there are people who make a difference the moment you meet them.
Yes.
They resonate with you. They stay with you. You know, when you meet them, you know you met someone that you want to keep in touch with for a lifetime. Well, Dr. Christopher Blair is that kind of person. I met him, I don't know, several years ago. He's been on the You Got the Power show before, but he is about 20 minutes away from Tuskegee in Bullitt County. He's the superintendent of the school system there. But he's a person who is innovative. You're talking about somebody who thinks out of the box, somebody who's clear-eyed on how to not only educate children, but also how to keep them safe. Okay. And to make those tough decisions, because he made some really tough decisions very early on in this. And we believe unequivocally that he saved lives as a result of it. You can see you can read all of his accolades. It'd take too long for us to do that, but please join me in welcoming to the cutting edge, my dear friend, Dr. Christopher Blair. Hey, Dr. Blair, how are you doing?
Let's put some snaps together for the doc. Hey, Principal, good to see you.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, Omar Neal. I appreciate that, Mayor, and Dr. Thomas. I appreciate the opportunity again to join you and to share, exactly as you said, the things that we're doing to keep our children and our staff safe. And I will definitely share some of those strategies as well. Just talk about how we're going to wind down our year and continue a safe summer, because summer school will be active in the Bullitt County schools, and I'll share some of those strategies as well.
Right. And that's something I didn't think about, Dr. Blair, but some schools do have summer school. There are schools who kind of, because of staffing and, money, that they have to shut down. But there are some schools that stay open year round. And so we're going to talk about what schools are doing and to make sure that we're transferring that information from the schools to the communities and to organizations in the community. We don't need to operate in silos and fiefdoms and have these kind of esoteric conversations about keeping our children safe. We need to make sure that we spread the knowledge. Once right. You owe, right?
and Mayor, back in the day, we had vacation Bible school for the kids that couldn't go to the special camps. Remember that?
Absolutely.
So Superintendent Blair, I don't know if the school systems work with the vacation Bible schools and the other ways in which kids are in camps to make sure that they're continuing their education and getting accurate information.
Yeah, definitely. We do. We have actually a program that will be similar to it. It's called the Children's Defense Fund Freedom School. And it looks like Vacation Bible School because the students get to sing and dance, and we do have some religious songs that they're singing. So it gives them a connection to their cultural relevance to what they want to talk about and sing about. So it's a 6-week program, and they do arts and crafts. It would remind you of a Vacation Bible School, which is full of STEM activities and great dancing and drum beating. It's awesome. Yeah.
Oh man, that sounds like something I want to go to. I mean,
You do.
but that's off the chain, man. So yeah, but we're gonna talk about that. But let me bring on a new friend. I talked about you know Dr. Blair and how he impressed me the moment I met him, but also attorney Pamela Keith. Just several weeks ago, I was on a show, was not the You Got the Power show, it was another show with Jerry McIntosh and Carol McIntosh, Our Voices. And this powerhouse was on that show. This was my first time, really knowing anything about her. And I don't know how I missed this. Now, she's run for Senate, man, in Florida. And did very well. I've heard so many great things about her, but this is one thing you will know. You will be clear on what she thinks. She's unequivocal about her positions, and she does not hesitate in letting you know how she feels about a certain thing or what she thinks about it. And I think that kind of authenticity, that kind of honesty, is what people need now. We don't need to be equivocating and scratching where we don't itch, and laughing at things that aren't funny. I mean, what we need to be is clear-eyed on it.
Yes.
If you're talking about a person who's clear-eyed, attorney Pam Keith. Hey, attorney, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Mayor, and thank you so much for having me on. I feel like I might be punching above my weight class here with experts.
Can't happen.
No.
Can't happen. She's heavyweight, man, when it comes to this kind of thing. And you'll know. I don't have to tell you anything. Just watch it. Just watch, I brought you into this space because you can be in any space. I don't normally bring people out of, what they do for a living, but because you ran for Congress, you were going to, present legislation and policy concerning everything. So you've thought about this. You have focused on employment issues, all of basically your career. You're formerly of the Navy, and so you were a JAG officer in the Navy, and so you come from a lot of perspectives. But today we're gonna talk about how do we now have the conversation about our children. Because that's what's happening on a national level, right? How do we have our conversations about our children, not only to keep them safe, right, but to also deal with their mental health, Attorney Keith, and other things that's going on with our children. Our children will become our adults, and I don't know who said it, but he said it's easier to build children than to repair adults, right?
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
So that's what we're gonna have today. Go ahead.
And certainly, if we're talking about how we keep our children safe and how we prepare for their summer activities, then we have to talk about the burden on parents to be able to take care for their kids should they get sick. And what does that look like in this day and age, this COVID age? And what tools and laws and rights do they have? Do they need to take time off to take care of their kid? Those are things that we may discuss today as well.
We whatever you want to talk about, Attorney Keith, that's what we're going to talk about today. So we're so happy to have you on. Thank you for joining with us, agreeing to join with us, and we'll see you again. I mean, you're gonna, you see these individuals, Dr. T. These are individuals who will be regulars on the Cutting Edge show, man.
But I want to say to Attorney Keith, it's an honor for you to be here. We bring an interdisciplinary group of people into these spaces to speak to our audience. Mm-hmm. And for many of them, it may be the first time they're seeing folk like we have in these Hollywood squares. And when you get to meet them, they're going to be authentic too. But I think when you talked about punching above your weight, I just looked at the fact that you have 3 languages under your belt: Portuguese, Spanish, and French. And just in the context of some languages don't have words for certain things. When you put all of that together in your travels and what you've seen even in the courts, what can you tell this audience about kids in trauma and how we help them heal?
It's such a profound question. One of the things about children is that they absorb trauma very differently than adults. And quite often, they don't talk about the trauma that they're absorbing until it manifests, in some sort of behavioral issue or manifests in some other way, right? And I think we need to be honest that COVID was traumatic for children. It was traumatic because it took them out of their comfort zone. It took them out of their classroom. It took them out of their routine. They could sense through the sensitivity that children have, the fear and the stress in their parents and in their communities. And this generation of children derives so much of its sense of well-being from its connections to their peers, right? Our generation, myself and Omar and perhaps yourself, our generation, we got more in the household. We got more from our parents. We got more from our siblings. We got more from what was going on in the home. But these younger children get a great deal more from their peers. They get it more from social media. They get it more from, the video game environment that they're in, or whatever activity they're in. And so COVID traumatized them. Last summer was traumatizing. The summer before that was even more traumatizing, right? Mm-hmm. And so there are kids that are going to be walking around with a great deal of uncertainty, right? Uncertainty of how, are they okay? Are their parents okay? Maybe they had serious COVID illness in their family. Maybe they lost a loved one, mm-hmm. right? And because the parents can get so busy taking care of stuff, they sometimes don't have the bandwidth to take care of their children's fears and their concerns and their disquiet and their discomfort. And they just kind of figure that the kid will figure it out. And so there's just this real need now that they're out of school, heading towards the summer, for parents to really dial into their kids, right? Don't take this opportunity and think of it as only an opportunity to find something to entertain your kid while you go to work. This is a time where they're not under scholastic pressure, that you can actually kind of check in with your kid, check in and recalibrate with them where they are and how they are, and give yourself a little space to really tease out of them, because sometimes that's what it takes. You got to tease out of them how they're really doing. And I think that's some space that the summers can afford. When I was a kid, I looked forward to the summer break like it was manna from heaven, man. Like we would count down the days till summer break. Because for us, summer break was hanging out at a house or playing out on the street, watching cartoons. It was taking the cap off of the fire hose and dancing in the street. Like it was
hold up.
Uncomplicated.
Oh, yeah. You juvenile, juvie word.
I didn't say I took it off. I just said that
it came out. You danced though,
right? But it was drive-ins.
Accessory after the fact. I bet you that.
Right, but it was very communal. Summer was very, very communal, and now there's more of a sense that the kids go to camp or they go to activities or whatever. It's harder for them to be communal, and with COVID, it's been 10 times harder for them to be communal.
Wow.
So
well,
throw that out.
Thanks so much. Dr. T, we have Mr. Anthony Nolan, who is up there in Prince George County, man. He is the division chief at the Prince George County, Maryland Department of Parks and Recreation. 46 years. In the business, man, of dealing with parks and recreation.
Good evening, everyone.
How you doing, man?
Let me say this to set you up, Chief, is that I met Chief in Zoom during the pandemic, and I want us to all think about the people we've met, and maybe only seen them in the Zoom space because of the pandemic. But this was our Prince George's County Health Equity Coalition mayor. Yeah, a coalition that I called it the solution space. People came there with problems and they left with solutions. And I reached into that space for someone to come on the show tonight to talk about parks and recreation and keeping our kids safe. And I can't think of a better person to do that than Chief Nolan and all his years of experience. They had a chance to read a little bit of your bio, Chief, but what would you want this audience to know about you as a person? How would you introduce yourself?
So for me, I've been in the profession of Parks and Recreation for 26 years. And one of the key aspects that I want people to take away is that, kids want to have fun. And one of the key things is that they can learn through play. So we provide a wide variety of opportunities for children to have fun, engage with others, find what their interests are, make new friends, have new experiences, and through this all as a learning experience as well. So, with me, I've taken a lot of what I've learned on the job home with me. And so I have two children, they're now 12 and 14, but I look at them, they've come up as Parks and Rec kids. They've gone to so many of our parks, so many of our events. They've had really a wonderful experience growing up. And, I look at them and see how they've developed. And, again, we look back and see how we can really enhance and, enrich the lives of all the youth that come through our programs. And I'll be honest, when they were younger, they were my product testers. If we went to an event or a program and they were bored, we would have a chat after. But and on the flip side too, if they had a great time, I would give a shout out to the program and to the staff that were running this program, because they really, for the most part, had a wonderful experience coming to work with me.
One of the things that you said is so salient, Mr. Nolan, is this: you can learn and play. I think that we try to make it seem that you have to be so regimented with children. Get in line, stay quiet, and just regurgitate what I give you, right? In the critical thinking and creativity and dealing with the different modalities of learning are not fully explored when you operate from that. Maybe we need to look at your model and then take it into Dr. Blair's schools, right? We're going to talk a little bit about that. What's your thoughts about that?
So two of the programs that I oversee we have two employee child care centers. And in meeting with the staff that run those programs, these are both licensed programs overseen by the Maryland State Department of Education. There's expectations tied to that. But at the same time, the staff really try to engage the children in their care in a fun, friendly manner. We have an amazing playground associated with the child care center. It's Grammy's Garden, and it has a focus on monarch butterflies. And so as part of that is that journey of the caterpillar to becoming a butterfly is incorporated throughout that playground. And so again, we try to encourage the children to not only have fun inside with arts and crafts and including educational programs, but also to get outside, be active, enjoy the weather. All Maryland has 4 seasons, and so being able to take advantage of that. And then we have other amenities like a small herb garden that they can see how things grow. It's a really a wonderful space for them. And we have, the two sites probably have a total of 200 children that attend, 100 at one site, and, 74 at the other. But then in addition, we have 29 other licensed childcare programs that are kind of a wraparound service with Prince George's County Public Schools. These are all, for the most part, after-school programs. And so the students come from school to our programs. And again, sometimes there's this expectation by parents that they really should be focused on doing homework. And not that there isn't time carved out while they're with us, but again, it's more of a recreation focus for those children. And I think it's critical, and especially during the last 2 years, I think it's really helped to maintain the mental health of many of those kids that were in our programs.
Right, that's powerful. I had Dr. Blair, I had two favorite subjects while I was in school. Recess and lunch those were the ones I liked the most. I mean, I want to know how are we adjusting? I know that we have the state requirements and all of that, but how do you look at modalities of reaching children where learning is not painful, but fun and interesting to them?
Right. Yeah, that's a great dynamic. And it's an awesome question to kind of go and ponder on, because what we do earlier on, from pre-K probably through first and second, it looks more like learning through play. Right. And one of the dynamics we have to always, that intersects with what we do as an educator is that how do we design these opportunities where children are having a lot of fun? They're learning, brain growth development is happening in terms of their numeracy, their literacy, but they're learning to have those cooperation skills and how to get along with each other and grow with that social emotional learning piece that happens there. But also, how do we then dovetail that into these structured type assessments that even at early as kindergarten, our students have to now sit at a computer quietly with a headset on and read or answer a question that doesn't look anything like the learning to play, right? And that's what happens to us, is that as we get closer to what the real world looks like for the teenagers, the adults going into workforce, and even for ourselves, we get these regimented activities that look like ACT, SAT, LSAT, all these things that from a state department, it pushes to the district so early that our teachers, and this is the sad part about it, because of that pressure, the play part, we push it aside so easily because we think you have to do so much to get them ready for that regimented assessment that doesn't look like the authentic learning that play gives them. That's not an authentic assessment. So that's the dynamic we always work with, but we try to make it as, our pre-K classrooms in Alabama, our first class pre-K classrooms, there's a concept, learning through play, and we have integrated that into our kindergarten classrooms, where we use that same curriculum, that our teachers are taking students through multiple activities during the course of the day where they may be manipulatives, working with manipulatives, but they're learning that one-to-one correspondence, they're learning those counting skills. So we know that it's going to go back to that standard, that skills-based, making sure that when we do sit them in that opportunity to pen, pencil, or computer assessment, they can show that same skill in another way. But again, you lose that as you get a little older, where the play goes a little bit away. But then we turn it into those interactive activities where we just had Chief Nolan talk about. We give them the STEM experiences. We give them more opportunities that look like, science, engineering, math, where we give them, even an example in my school district is we gave our middle school and high school students an old bus. It was a 12-year-old bus, maybe 13-year-old bus. And they turned it into a mobile STEM lab where it's a mobile greenhouse. Retrofitted the bus between the welding, the ag department, and our sustainability club at the middle school. It's a mobile greenhouse bus that now has solar energy, greenhouse panels, that pumps the water, grows the garden. So they're learning everything around, all of the STEM you can imagine, science, all of it integrated together with them stripping that bus down, turning it into a learning opportunity for those students, but also it's a community. So right now it's going to be retrofitted so it can go anywhere in the community. As Mayor Neal said, we're in a rural community. So we still have food, deserts. We still have opportunities where we know we need to grow and have green spaces. Well, this bus is going to be used in the community to help spread the word around gardening, or, the fun you can have with gardening, but also the sustainability of growing your food. So that's an example of getting a little older, how we give them those fun activities, but I can still say that the science skills they need to learn, the math skills that they need to learn, because that hands-on experience is fun and dynamic, that itself can still translate to those standards that they need to measure, which we know gives us our school accountability, the report card grades, all the other pressures that come out of that. But it's the dynamic that we, as educators, we're passionate about, and we take the challenge. We just plunge at it, and you'll see multiple ways in which teachers, aides, and all of our, paraprofessionals that support our classrooms engage students in that looks like older, but it's fun activities for those students. And those out of the classroom experiences where we take them to places like Tuskegee and they can learn about the Tuskegee Airmen, all those different things they need to know historically, but also relevant to today's activities and, and things they need to know as far as a skill set for us.
That's powerful. We do a thing called checking our pulse collectively. We call it the word cloud. And what we do is we ask people to say the word that best describe how they feel, which is kind of a feeling check, collective feeling check. Dr. T, tell them how we do it.
So in your chat, think of a word right now that best reflects how you're feeling. And in the chat for the next 60 seconds, just drop that word in, and as many words as come to mind that you can think of. Don't worry about spelling, just drop those words in one at a time, and we have a crew that's going to build the cloud, and they'll let us know when the cloud is ready. And for folks out there in Facebook and YouTube land, you can use the Q&A box to drop your questions in, and the team will build that word cloud. As I was listening to our panelists, I was wondering what they think about a very common statement made about kids, even our college kids, that somehow this pandemic, these 2 years, has made them a lost generation. That's the language being used, Superintendent Blair. That's the language being used, Attorney Keith. That's the language being used, Chief Nolan. Lost generation. And I'm saying to myself, were there not some lessons learned in this pandemic that were lessons of life, lessons of tolerance, lessons of managing grief and stress? Can you speak to lessons from the pandemic that can actually help kids and their parents grow? Attorney Keith?
I think, first of all, I categorically reject the notion that it's a lost generation. We don't have lost generations, right?
Okay.
When you look at, just pull back and look at not what happened in the United States, right? Right now, Ukraine is in the midst of a war, and its children are being displaced. Their families are being displaced. People in Vietnam back in the day, their children were displaced. People have been through, people all over the world have been through huge displacements, disruptions, and so forth. And their children have learned from them. Those have survived. They have become more resilient. They have contributed to the world in many, many ways. So this idea that, having 2 years of COVID made an entire generation of American kids lost is nonsense.
Thank you.
It made them have a different childhood experience, and that is going to bond them in a certain way, right? They're going to be the generation that dealt with COVID. And that is it is going to make them necessarily somewhat different from the generations that came before them, right? There's a certain morbidity reality that they had to confront that we didn't, right? So I don't know. I think we have yet to see exactly what's going to manifest from the 2 years of COVID, and it's not over, mind you, but there's going to be some negative things that come out of it. There's going to be some amazingly positive things that come out of it too. And we just don't know exactly what that's going to look like, because it's going to take a while for all of this to marinate, sink in, and have its consequence, right? Both from the interpersonal component, but also just a tremendous amount of loss and grief and independence, resilience, creativity. You know, a lot of parents, a lot of people changed their employment, changed their living circumstances, changed their marriage circumstances. There was a great deal of disruption, but there was also a great deal more time spent with family. There's some parents who got to know their kids. Right. You know, I mean, so we don't, I just don't think it makes any sense to try to say, oh, well, there's going to be X that comes out of this or Y that comes out of it. I think it's going to be somewhat, individualized. There may be some common themes that come out, but I just don't know that we're going to know the answer to that in the near future. I think it's going to take a few years, maybe even a decade before we really get our head around what COVID did to our children. And if we want to make sure that our children are around to have that experience, then we need to be also very focused on protecting them and getting them vaccinated when vaccine is available for them, teaching them the habits to keep themselves safe. Do you have to be paranoid? No. But do you have to be commonsensical? Yes. And if you are in tight quarters, it makes absolutely good sense to wear a mask. Mask does still protect. Is it the one end all be all? No, but nothing is, right? You reduce the risks that you can reduce, because there's no reason not to. Why do we wear a seatbelt? Does it guarantee that you're not going to die in a car accident? No, but it reduces the risk of dying in a car accident. And reduction is a valuable goal in and of itself. So we're not done with COVID. We're certainly nowhere near comprehending the consequences of COVID. We lost, in excess of 800,000 Americans, and that might have been grandma, that might have been cousin or auntie or pastor or somebody in your network. We don't know what all of the fallout is going to be. But this idea that we should, write off a generation of our children is insane.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. What we're going to do is, is the word cloud ready? The word cloud is done. Let's bring the word cloud up. Thanks, Attorney Keefe. I told you all she's great. It's fabulous. Everybody's just so great. Chief, Dr. Blair.
Here's a pulse beat. So for the panelists and Mayor, what do you see in here?
Well, Dr. Blair, what do you see? I normally do this, but what do you see? The larger the word, the more people said it.
Yes.
So what's your interpretation of what you say?
What I see is a split down the middle, people who are more at ease and some people that are still anxious and just kind of worn out. Because I toggle between the two all the time, all day, every day.
So you can go between these in the same day.
Right, you can in the same day, right? Because my role as superintendent is to be the engine, the fuel in the engine. I have to keep everything moving despite good or bad. It has to always be based on the vision and where we're going. And and what I see here is really there's such a mix of emotions. And then even going back, I made a note as Attorney Keefe was talking and Dr. Thomas asked, what did we learn from this? And sadly to say, but I believe that COVID was a necessary reset for what needed to happen in our country. And I'll say that because the experience created empathy.
Yes.
And what was happening, and I'll say this from a perspective of having always worked with high need Black populations, we've always wanted people to be sympathetic of what our students were experiencing. Sympathetic to the experiences of the lack of resources, lack of high quality sustained instruction, lack of expert facilities and all these opportunities and the, no silver spoon in your mouth, all these things that we were, clamoring for our boards and the legislature to help us, the federal government. But when COVID happened to everybody, despite the money you had in the bank, the family you were born in, we all can now empathize with what Attorney Perkins said, the hurt, the loss, the everything. Yeah. And out of it, and I would say this, in Alabama, we just passed the biggest education budget in history, right? But I don't think that ever would have happened had we had this horrible tragedy that brought us all to a place that we're all vulnerable. We
Yes.
all can fall to this part of life where we all have had incidents where the low economic families suffer the most when the economy changes or things like that. But when everyone suffered in terms of how we experienced it and the loss and the fatigue of it all. So unfortunately, I say I'm motivated because it's an opportunity now where we're talking about cultural relevance. We're talking about equity. Those things are bringing about real change, real opportunities for everyone to succeed. We're talking about how our Hispanic students are culturally relevant and they belong in this class. How everyone, it's a community of learners. We all have a place and a voice and a seat at the table. And it's shifting. Even in Alabama, we have a place called the Black Belt, and I know Mayor Neal knows that, where it's that economically depressed area of the state where a lot of resources are now being pushed because of what we've experienced in the last part of the state to say, yeah, now we understand what you all were going through for these last 300 years over the years, right?
Took a pandemic.
Well, and if I may, Dr. Blair, let's not forget that we had a great deal of social upheaval happening concomitantly with all of this economic and health upheaval, family upheaval. Let's not forget that there's a tremendous amount of social destabilizing going on right now. And the kids are talking about it.
They are.
Kids are talking about it. They're talking about Black Lives Matter. They're talking about criminal justice reform. They're talking about climate change. They're talking about individual rights. They're talking about all of that stuff. And they're talking about it very much in their little pods, isolated pods through social media, right? And through their sort of online activity. And so the need to connect to parents and to connect to stability and to connect to predictability is, I think, pretty strong right now. I think they need a little grounding right now. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with you. Let's bring up Dr. Carol Ritter. Dr. Ritter is our resident physician. She's been a part of the Cutting Edge since its inception. She is an OB/GYN physician out of the great state of Maryland. Hey, Dr. Ritter, how are you doing?
I am doing great. This has been great. I've been taking lots of notes because it's like stimulating my brain in a way that I haven't thought about kids for a while, because my kids are older now, they're adults. But I got schooled by a kid in my office this week, 11-year-old, just happened to be there because his mother works for me and it was a school day or something, whatever. He was in my office and this 11-year-old was so wise and learned me a lesson when I came out of a room because a patient yelled at me because I wasn't like accommodating her needs to her satisfaction. And I was like upset. And this kid saw me upset and he wrote me a letter.
Wrote you a letter?
He wrote me a
Powerful.
letter. And the wisdom behind this letter is like, I mean, I don't even want to paraphrase it. If you don't mind, I'm going to read it because
Go ahead.
you say that
Yeah.
you say that you learn through play. Well, you also learn through trauma. And this is what he said. He said, Dr. Ritter, I don't know what made you so sad, but when life gives you a time when you're sad and you got to pull through and you got to get over it. Trust me, he says, trust me. At one time, I got really mad when someone pulled a knife on my friend. And I got so mad. It took me a while to get over it, but I got over it. And I know that you can get over it. We know we can. And then he says, look to the sky. Look to the skies. He says, look to the skies, which is where you come into the parks and recreation, because ultimate truth is nature does not change. You can look at the horizon, it's always going to be there. You can trust in nature. And he told me to look to the skies. And it was like such a lesson from our children that this next generation is really going to get us out of this chaos that we're in right now and teach us that, they survive. And I just really thought he was there for a purpose and now this show that, I'm not afraid of this generation being lost. I think they're going to be incredibly special.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for sharing that with us, Dr. Ritter. That was special because the children will teach us. And, that it's somewhere in the Bible where it says, suffer little children unto me, forbid them not, for such is the kingdom. I believe that children will teach us. And so we need to pay very close attention. Dr. Sharon Cooper, bring her up and let me holler at my sister. Hey, Dr. Cooper, how are you doing?
Good evening, everyone. Good evening.
Tell everybody about you. Dr. Cooper's been with us for a month and a Sunday. So tell them a little about yourself, and then I'm gonna engage you in this conversation.
Well, I've had the privilege of working with you all under my mentor, Dr. Thomas, and working with the barbershop in hairstylist initiatives in transforming healthcare in Prince George's County, and basically their roles being adopted as community health workers. So that has been a wonderful experience. But in speaking in reference to tonight, as in every night when I participate, it's just words of wisdom. And I call this whole thing the awakening. And when we talk about young people, I work directly with problem-solving courts. They use our computer application to help monitor and track and transform lives and introduce them to opportunities that may not be available or known. And through particular programs like this, it's just enlightening, and it helps me to not only identify resources, but to communicate those resources, because these programs are evidence-based programs designed to help shape policy and contribute to knowledge in understanding different cultures and working with where people are in order to bring about desirable outcomes and bringing about, as Dr. Blair said, sustainable outcomes. Not only short-term, but long-term, and looking at procedural fairness and just looking at social functioning. So it's just a privilege to be at all these meetings and to be a part of this whole initiative. So I thank each and every one of you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Cooper. Let's bring Meg Jordan on. We want Meg, get ready for us. I know I didn't give you much notice, but we have what we call the Public Health Minute. And what we do is we try to give people information that can help contextualize what we're talking about. And of course, we want to run the numbers. We want to see where we are there. And then we want to talk about children and how they are faring in this process from a public health perspective. Meg Jordan, you got the floor.
All right, thank you. Okay, so the numbers this week, cases are going down. We have 400,000 new cases of COVID-19 this week, and deaths have gone down. We have 2,000 deaths of COVID this week. That is the lowest it's been in this entire time I've been doing the numbers with you. 436,000 Americans became fully vaccinated this week. And 653,000 got their boosters for COVID-19.
Wow.
Thank you, Mayor Neal, for contributing.
Yeah.
So this brings us to 81.1 million cases of COVID-19 in the US in the past couple of years. We are at 991,000 deaths in the US from COVID-19, but we are at 219 million Americans fully vaccinated, and we are at 100 million boosters given in the US. So I wanted to talk today, the Public Health Minute is specifically about kids and vaccines, right? Because 5 to 11-year-olds get one vaccine. You know, we kind of break them up into these groups because kids became eligible at different times. Right now, the data as of yesterday is that 28.4% of 5 to 11-year-olds are fully vaccinated. 58.9 12 to 18-year-olds are fully vaccinated, and 63.3 18 to 24-year-olds are fully vaccinated. That's pretty comparable with the general adult population, with our older adults being the most vaccinated. So that's our Public Health Minute.
Thank you so much, Meg Jordan, our technical director slash guru for information for the Cutting Edge Show.
You know, Mayor,
Yeah, go ahead.
Our crews had to step up, and Meg and the team have really stepped up to make sure that we give people accurate information. And as I'm looking in the Hollywood Square at Attorney Keith, realizing here's another very, very important thing we've learned in these Hollywood Squares is I see your kitty, okay? And so pets have become a very, very important part of emotional wellness during this time.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And
That's true.
This is Ziggy. Ziggy is, say hi to Ziggy. I have two quarantine cats. I got them as rescues from the Humane Society during COVID.
And
Oh, wow.
I come back to that observation about empathy. You're so right. Not sympathy, but literally walk in the shoes and not take things for granted and be much more intentional. And Chief Nolan, when you look at those numbers on the kids in vaccination, they're still not where they should be. And might summer camp be a place where we have pop-up clinics? Might all kinds of youth programs be a place? Or, as we're watching the weaponization of COVID mitigation, are you witnessing resistance out there? Kids who want to get vaccinated, parents who don't want to, or those kinds of dynamics. How might we navigate that as kids leave school and have less access to the kind of structured information we deliver in the school settings?
Well, just to give you some background with regard to our organization, because we deal extensively with children, and we have, during this whole pandemic, relatively early on, once vaccines were available, a decision was made at the chairman's office to require that all employees be vaccinated. Wow. And so, again, because of the populations we were serving, my division, for example, we have the 2 child care centers. We serve as a liaison for all the kids care programs, after school licensed child care programs. We also oversee senior services. We have 6 senior centers that we operate. And then youth services. We provide support, training, and funding for youth programs throughout Prince George's County. And because of that, we were dealing with an extensive population that didn't have access to vaccinations. And so, the decision was made at that point that we had to do this. And we did lose some staff, but actually the number was pretty small. I mean, given the size of our organization, it was amazing how many people were willing to put aside. And there were some people who were hesitant, to put it mildly, but we were able to walk it through and get them vaccinated. Mm-hmm. And going through the pandemic, one of the things that I think was a growth opportunity for us is that we worked extensively with the health department, with the Department of Family Services, to provide food distribution, because many of our nutrition programs were shut down for a while. So the Family Services kind of pivot and had frozen meals available for families, for seniors. And so we had the sites, we had the staff, It was a great opportunity to bring staff back to work. So we helped with the distribution with that. And then because we have facilities throughout the county, we served early on as testing facilities, then as vaccination centers, and then continued to assist by being distribution points for the rapid tests up until just recently. I think we just shut down. We distributed the last of our supplies, and so it was a great opportunity for us to develop deeper. Not that we didn't have relationships, but deeper relationships with other county agencies, including the health department. We've worked very, very closely with them.
Okay.
And then this summer, again, we're trying to. We had to shrink our offerings, or at least the number of children that we serve in our programs, because we understand it's still out there. We do not ask vaccination questions with regard to vaccination of our patrons, and so taking that into account and trying to minimize the impact, we've had smaller cohorts, and we've really developed pretty good procedures and policies to try to mitigate the risk. That's been really important. But we've also worked with other health providers to do pop-up clinics, both during the pandemic and ongoing as well. So I see that as a great opportunity to and again, working closely with Prince George's County Public Schools, because they've been really the leader in trying to get the information and testing and promoting vaccinations as well.
So no one group has the answer, Mayor.
Yeah, no, we again, we try to provide as much support as we can to all the different players, and so I feel like we've really made stronger connections. It's very easy to kind of get tunnel vision and work in a silo, but I think during the pandemic we really had to work extensively with people outside of our box, outside the comfort zone.
Well, we're going to try to keep you outside the box.
Right. What we're going to do, Chief, we're going to throw the box away. That's that way you can't get back in the box. I mean, the box no longer exists, right? That's what we're going to be doing.
Well, and I do have one point. So to kind of back up Pamela's statements earlier with regard to the lost generation, I kind of looked at this past pandemic as serious, as bad as things got, and there were a lot of people saying, "Oh, the children lost so much time at school. Being on a screen is not the same as being in the classroom, and that everybody's falling behind." And I said, "Yes, you're right, everybody." I said, "I'm looking at this year as a gap year. We're all going to start. All the kids are going to start back. They're all going to be behind. So really, they're not going to be behind anybody else. They're just going to."
Well, I'm gapping too, man. I'm behind. We all gapped out. Chief, that's good. You know what? You mentioned something. More is caught than is taught. People learn best by precept and example. Today, I went and got my second booster.
All right. A snap for the mayor. We need role models out there.
And we have to promote our protection.
There you go.
And I think that's what it is. Let's show them a little bit of what happened to me today. You see, I'm getting my booster shot.
I see you wore the right shirt too.
That's what you call product placement, man. All right.
Mayor, that's right. That's snap. Before we leave that, the notion of taking your vaccine and your booster and posting it and celebrating it was something we saw a lot of. But we've also run into people who have they're vaccine closeted. They didn't want to tell anybody they got vaccinated. So we're in a space where we have to learn how to talk through our differences. And I know you do that in the courtroom. I'm hoping that we can help people de-escalate the tension that's out there. And our barbers and stylists see a lot of this when people come in and sit in that chair. And so
come to think of it, go ahead, Dr. T. I'm sorry, I stepped on you.
I was going to say you're going to meet some of them, and
that's why I was just about to go there. So we've been around each other so long, we kind of know each other. Let's go in the barbershop. Let's bring up Katrina Randolph. Katrina Randolph is known by Dr. T. I've not said this, as the short hair queen. That this is her thing. And I know everybody's hair is beautiful, and that's true. But as our special guest, Attorney Pamela Keith, hair is on fleek. That's
It's actually not. I'm like desperately waiting.
Hey, I'm telling you, it looks good. Hey, how you doing, Miss Katrina Randolph?
You're muted, Queen. Unmute yourself.
Unmute yourself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Katrina Randolph. I'm the owner of Trey Shades Hair Studio on Capitol Heights, Maryland. I'm also a certified community health worker through the state of Maryland. I'm sorry.
So you have hold on 1 second. You have one you have two on. So
can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you now. Go ahead.
Do I need to reintroduce myself?
Yes, please do.
Hello, everyone. My name is Katrina Randolph. I'm the owner of Trey Shades Hair Studio in Capitol Heights. I'm also the certified community health worker through the state of Maryland, and I'm also part of the Hair Network with Dr. Stephen Thomas. Listening to this conversation, I want to piggyback on the children because I was thinking about my children when we was having this conversation about some of the things that the children have experienced during COVID. And what I noticed about my children during COVID, and they all are like 5 years apart, it brought them closer together. It brought them closer together in a way where they checked on one another. They made sure they were loving up on one another. They made sure they were praying with one another. And they also got the chance to experience their mom being on Zooms every day, talking about COVID with people like Dr. Stephen Thomas and many scientists. So it helped them to be able to make a decision to want to be vaccinated and to even share this information with some of their friends. And so what I did during COVID was I wanted to do a vaccine clinic for teenagers and young adults. And the reason I wanted to do that, because in my salon, we see a lot of teenagers between the ages of 12 and 18, and a lot of their parents were hesitant to get vaccinated at that time. So I wanted to open up my salon so that their parents could kind of have a mindset change, bring their kids out to be vaccinated. So when they know that I was having a vaccine clinic, they began to share this information with their parents and their friends, and they were so excited about the vaccine clinic, and they came out. And I thought that was a good example of just giving back to our community and being supportive of the younger kids going through this misunderstanding of not understanding what COVID was all about, what this vaccine was all about. So I was excited. I think we vaccinated about 25 children during our vaccine clinic, and the excitement that I saw on their face was just amazing. So just to piggyback on what we're experiencing now with the children going through mental health. A lot of times I talk to some of my clients and they're talking about the mental health issues that their children are experiencing at this time. And because we do a lot of advocating in the salon, I try to advocate and encourage them to just seek help for their children. Don't just sweep it under the rug like these things are normal that their children are experiencing, because they're things that they can't absorb. Because, if your parents are hesitant to be vaccinated, then you can't even explain to your children what's really going on. So I enjoy being a part of our network and being able to advocate behind my chair for my clients and their parents and their loved ones. So this conversation is always great for me. I always take away some good nuggets to take back and share with my colleagues and my clients. So I'm excited to be a part of this network and be on this Zoom every week.
We love you so much, and we appreciate you. Yeah, let's bring up Sandra Jenkins. Sandra Jenkins, go all the way over to the Philadelphia area,
And Mayor, just
Pennsylvania.
Just before Sandra speaks, let me just say for Katrina, so the Chief and Attorney Keith know that when you show up to Katrina's vaccine clinic, it's like showing up to a party. She got a DJ playing music, got the barbecue going. And so she literally transformed her event into something people wanted to come to. And I really love the grandmothers who brought
Yeah.
their grandkids.
Yeah.
That's real role modeling.
Yeah,
I think I'm in need of
that's
a
thinking
boost.
out of the box. We talked about that, Chief, right?
Chief needs a boost.
Absolutely. Hey, Miss Jenkins, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good tonight. Pretty
Tell
good.
everybody about who you are, and then we're gonna just your reflection on what you've heard today. You always have a way of capsulating, so go ahead and just do
Yes.
you.
Thank you, Mayor Neer. My name is Sandra Jenkins. I'm the owner of Naturalist, located in Montgomery County, Pennsylvania. And we take on a comprehensive approach, and COVID has really, really energized us to continue to foster those types of practices. In the salon, my motto has been for the past 30 years is it takes a village to raise a child. And that is so very true. In the salon, building that relationship and rapport, first and foremost with the parents. The parents have to trust you, and your child has to be in good hands. And that's very important to me, because that is exactly what I would want for my child. But I meant to say before I continue, thank you for your service, Attorney Pamela Keith. I'm from a military family, and so I needed to squeeze that in. My son right now, he's serving in the United States Marine Corps, and he's living in California right now, and I'm very proud of him. But to continue on that.
Let's get, hold up. We got to give some snaps. Hold up. Don't go past that. We got to get some snaps. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So with being that village in the salon, it really takes that understanding that it's a learning experience. It's a learning experience to know how to care for your hair. You're looking at this child and you're looking at their future, and you're thinking about yourself as a parent and what would that parent want you to think. Let's foresee how this child is going to grow and how they're going to transition into the world. What college do they plan to attend? All these types of conversation builds a relationship with the parents. And then in the midst of it all, you're looking at this child's hair and you're becoming familiar with it. So it's a learning experience for myself as well. And for the many, many young people that I've come across, I must say that I'm so incredibly proud of them, especially when they come back to visit and they're 40 years old. So, these trans speaks a lot for itself. But developing that understanding of the comprehensive approach, makes this whole experience with the parent and child and the community at large to really feel comfortable about the fact that in the midst of this all, we're living in this. This is the endemic that we're living in, and this transformation can be something that could be of a benefit and a wonderful, healthy life and well-being for everybody.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Sandra Jenkins, man. This is incredible. Let's, we're gonna let the video that I did be the last thing that we do. In fact, that will be my end team. Let's bring up Andre Russell out of the ATL.
Atlanta.
The ATL. If those who don't know what the ATL is, I don't know what to say about you.
It's actually Atlanta, Georgia, and it means so much to me personally.
Absolutely. Tell them a little bit about yourself, Andre.
Get through this real quick. We have barbershops inside the airport, which happens to be now the busiest airport in the world. And we're proud to be there. And we have had visits from our staff and our people here. But I wanted to get right into, we're talking about children and exposure. And what I've noticed is on exposure to children and for them to be learning, I'm seeing like Dr. T has something that I had made an attention to before, is the difference between a pandemic and an endemic. And so this is something that the average person doesn't care about, doesn't even care. They don't know. And I didn't either. And I've been around. But what I see as this learning experience is, it's like finding the Rosetta Stone of information, where one piece of information turns into another piece of information, and there is a growth spurt going on while we have been in our pandemic situation. And now we're finding that it is an endemic that's going to be going on for a while. And that's something that a lot of people have to start realizing, but they're not going to pick up a piece of paper and find this out. We're going to have to grow into this new situation. And Dr. Keith is very strong in her belief on, or Attorney Keith, I'm sorry, in spreading this information as much as you can. And I'm sure there's obstacles out there. And, Dr. Blair, we've seen him before, so we know where his heart is. Thank you, Dr. Blair. And the chief is a new guy for me. So not sure what's going on with him right now, but it seems like his heart is in the right place. And as me, as a group, because I happen to represent a group, but I enjoy being here with everybody every week, as well as our usual people, Sharon, Sandra, everybody.
Just make sure once you start naming, you get in trouble.
Keep on going. You're right.
That's how you have to do it.
Well, however, the point that I'm trying to make is information communication is a wonderful thing. Absolutely. We cannot stop that out. Okay, go ahead, Doc.
No. I want you to finish your statement. You notice I didn't even stop you today. My benevolence is just is obvious. I love you, Andre.
Yeah, I love you guys too, and I appreciate being a part of this as we continue. But it's a learning experience. I am trying to think of ways to expand on what we're doing, and I've got a couple of shops in Chicago and a couple of shops in. I found out from Meg that she's from St. Louis. And I know people in St. Louis. I'm not sure what I can do to expand this and let them join into our group, because we're looking right now, from what I understand from Meg, is we're going into diabetes and hypertension, and I'm good at that. So thank you. Yeah, thank you for letting me talk to you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we appreciate you.
I'm just a small businessman.
Man, you ought to get out here. Now hold up. Now you're gonna have to pay $2 in church Sunday for that one.
Oh, they love me at church. Don't worry about that.
I want Attorney Keith and
it has nothing to do with me. It has to do with my wife. She said, "Can we do this?" I said,
"She writing the check." So right.
I just said, "Can we do this?" I said, "Well,
whatever you say.
If you're blessed, I'm blessed. So
Absolutely.
Let's go."
He knows how to keep the household.
But anyway, I love you guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for allowing me to be a part of the group. And like I said, I'm just a small businessman. However, I tend to be very influential. So keep me in the group.
Absolutely.
Let me just say, if people had a chance to observe, this is like a family here, Chief Nolan. And one of the things that Andre just demonstrated in his own way, in his own words, this pandemic versus endemic. Mm-hmm. You see, Anthony Fauci even had to back up and clarify. Mm-hmm. But Andre said, nobody's going to pick up a brochure or an epidemiological journal article to know this distinction. It'll happen when they're sitting in that chair in the conversation, mm-hmm. in the live stream, Chief, that we will have on flat screen TVs of this show, excerpts flowing through where Dr. Ritter and other colleagues in the medical community can speak directly to our folk who now recognize this as a safe space to ask their questions. That's how we're going to get out of this.
Yeah, I agree with that. Let's go all the way back over to the Pennsylvania area. Stacy Ruffin, Let's go up to Stacy with Rejuvenate. Stacy, hey, how are you doing?
I'm blessed.
Hey,
How
Stacey.
are you?
Doing good. What do you what's with your signal today? You coming in kind of slow. What's up?
Oh, probably because I was just picking up my Aveda products from
Okay.
the but I don't know why.
No, you okay. Go
This
ahead.
might be.
Go ahead.
Oh,
You're doing fine now. Go
yeah.
ahead.
All right. Everything is going good. We're looking forward to May 16th, doing the vaccine clinic here for the third time.
Okay, wonderful.
And that's all what's going on. I'm on vacation actually. Today's my last day. I'm going to Penn Relays and running a Broad Street run, 10 miles down Broad Street on Sunday.
That's
So
wonderful.
just pray for me, and everybody that's running should be vaccinated. So be almost safe.
Hey, Stacy, what do you think about this conversation and the kids and helping them through this? What are you seeing?
I'm just trying to get the right neck because we're right across the street from actually 3 schools. So I'm just trying to get with the Jamie, which is the barber's mother, so we can get the flyer out to all the schools. We're like, I'm like 4 steps away from a high school, 10 steps away from an elementary school, and about 40 steps away from another high school. So we have all the schoolings around here. I just want to get the message to them before the 16th.
Tell them a little bit about what you're doing, because it's important that you understand this is not just any vaccine clinic. This is very special. To contextualize what's happening, Stacey.
Yes. Well, I am going to be with Jamie, which is the mother of Najee, which is an 11-year-old barber, which is going to a lot of people, because I mean, I first seen her on the news and I was like, that is amazing.
Not just the news, the New York Times, you saw her.
Yeah.
Right.
And what happened is our barbers are really excited to just give her a hand and just promote this vaccine clinic. So I'm getting like the track teams involved because, you know, my sister's track coach, and we're just trying to get everybody involved. And we put out the word already here. Well, we have 3,000 people, so maybe more people will come out this time when they, you know, we're going to give a little bit of entertainment with it. So we're going to try to make it into a carnival on a Monday.
Okay.
So we're going to do all we can to get the people here, get vaccinated, and just get them excited about living. That's it. Just live.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about this before we move on, because Attorney Keith and you and Dr. Blair and Chief Nolan, people thought from the beginning, that's why managing expectation is so important. They thought that there was a finite date that we can say that COVID is going to dissipate, right? Then we realized that viruses mutate, right? And then they create different variants. And so therefore, it may be, and Dr. Teeth mentioned this early, and a lot of people probably thought he was crazy. We said we may have to live.
I thought it was crazy. Yeah.
Right. You know. He said we may have to live with this thing. And so how do you now incorporate the fact that maybe this is permanent in terms of even for children who have cognitive decline based on contracting COVID, right? Trauma associated with being in a pandemic, Dr. Blair. I mean, how do we now adapt our modality of teaching to accommodate those traumas?
Dr. Blair?
Okay, yeah. The statement just ran into my mind that, history repeats itself. And we've said that, but now that we're experiencing, what a pandemic looked like, 100 years ago with these different viruses and plagues that came through, and we read about them, but to experience it. And so what we're telling our children is that there's a statement I also use is, blessed are the flexible, for they shall never be broken. So we're trying to be nimble, right? How do we go from one situation to the next, but you still have this sense of consciousness, right? Where you are still strategically thinking through it. And, even in our district, we knew we needed supports for students, but we knew this time we needed to have more wraparound. So the social workers, the mental health coordinators, the attendance coordinators, these parent engagement pieces, they're so critical so that we're now prepared. If anything happens, we can be very nimble in how we respond strategically. So that's how we're setting up the district and our teachers, is to be very responsive all the time, right? Don't think that, what you just saw experiencing with this child now exhibiting, as Attorney Keith said, these signs are showing up that the child had trauma. We already knew signs of trauma. We just weren't being intentional about addressing it, right? So we're going to be very intentional about these actions, intentional about our plans, and intentional about this piece of community, right? Where I go into a classroom and I want to see the community of learners and scholars that are looking out for each other, that are embracing and affirming each other, right? And now our teachers are having to do more of that affirmation, telling children that they are, a scholar, for example, or you are well, but also giving them the strategy to become that scholar or to be well. So really just being very strategic and intentional, and understanding that history is going to keep repeating. But if we react and not ready to respond in a way that's going to get us, on course, or, have to, pivot strategy to stay on course, meaning, to provide high quality instruction, to provide active engagement, all those things that we know are best practices. We don't want to lose that, in the term, and having to go from virtual instruction to face-to-face. We're still providing high quality instruction, right? That's the course we're on.
Right. Good. Thanks. Chief, man, you got a big job, and we are so appreciative to have you hang out with us, man. You're a dear friend of the show, man. I want you to see yourself in that vein. How you are going to adapt, being the people who have, the awesome responsibility of that we entrust our children with. How you are going to adapt to what could be an endemic, that we got to live with this.
So one of the big things that we've always focused on with our staff is training. So as part of a licensed childcare program, the staff are required to, get a certain number of hours of CEUs. Our summer staff have to, under state law, there's a number of hours of training that they have to undergo. On top of that, though, now we are really, and not just now, the last few years, we've been focusing on mental health. So we've always worked on youth development, but now we're looking at, okay, so some of the issues that you brought up. So we've come up with new policies, procedures on how to deal with behavioral issues, mental health crises. We work with our park police on training them to be certified to handle crisis situations. And then with again, another layer of training for staff is this mental health first aid. This is a program developed by a national organization, and we're trying to cycle through as many of our first career staff, but then we're hoping to get our frontline staff also through that program. A big part of that is we're not mental health professionals, but it's just to raise the awareness, raise the, okay, there is an issue here. Okay, how do we, that first response is really critical, especially with youth, and then know when to call for help. So we do have staff that are trained. Again, one of the other sections in my division is therapeutic recreation and disability services. And so we've got over 40 years of working with individuals with severe cognitive and developmental disabilities. And so they have a really strong training. We have some wonderful subject matter experts that work on developing plans, recreation, as opposed to an individual education plan. They develop individual recreation plans.
Okay.
So Mayor,
yeah,
I'm listening to the chief and realizing, in his closing comments, all the resources in parks and recreation that we don't always think of.
Right.
I'm also looking at the fact, I can't believe we're down to seconds.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
tough.
but I got to go over a little bit because I got to have Attorney Keith wrap us up. You know, I
Yeah.
wanted to give her the last word. Attorney Keith, we really went a long time, but you know how to capsulate. You know how to, hook a brother up, make it make sense.
Well, I just want to thank you for inviting me. I have such tremendous respect for our barbers and our hairdressers because it's sacred space for those of us who get our hair did. And it's sacred space because it's comfort space, it's pamper space. It's also, in a way, a little bit of a confessional. You're willing to tell your hairdresser, your barber, some anxieties that you may not even willing to share with your spouse or with your coworkers. And so you have a tremendous opportunity to be spreaders of information rather than disinformation, and inspiration rather than depression. And so it's so important that you use that that knowledge to empower the people that you encounter. You're going to hear plenty of people tell you about having done their own research and all of the stuff they saw on the internet that said that, the COVID vaccine is a chip or it's government control or it's whatever. And you need to be able to separate the wheat from the chaff for them and say, look, this vaccine has been given now to 81 million Americans. If there was a real problem with the vaccine, you would have heard it by now. Exactly. And it wasn't targeted to any particular group of people. It's been given over every race, every gender, every age group. If it was unsafe, you would have heard it by now because Americans are a litigious group. If it didn't work, somebody would have sued by now. Vaccines are not meant to be 100% protection. They're meant to boost your own body. But why would you say no to being stronger against something that can kill you? Why would you say no to that? And in my last thought, I would say, well, if this is endemic, not pandemic, if this means that we have to live with COVID and its constant mutations, like we live with the flu and its constant mutations, it is a vaccine that makes it flu-like for us rather than a life sentence for us, right? It's a vaccine that makes it something that your body can be resilient against. And you can sort of, it's not something you want, but it's something that you can endure. So why would you deny yourself that prophylaxis? Why would you deny yourself that protection? I think back to our earlier generations that had to deal with the scourges of polio and had yellow fever and measles and rubella and all these other things. And we do ourselves, our children, our grandchildren, and all our future generations such a disservice to throw out the lessons from those various previous vaccine experiences because of our current political interests and trying to divide, demonize, and confuse people. Right. So let's chalk it up to the fact that the people who actually went to school and got a PhD in virology or biology's research is at a deeper and more profound level than your internet search. And let's just say for going forward, that if vaccinating against COVID is something you have to do every 6 months or every year, then so be it. Then so be it.
Yeah.
Do your vaccine, do your boosting, protect your family, live with COVID if we have to live with COVID. Don't die from COVID.
Absolutely.
Don't hold anything back. Just go ahead and state whatever you're talking about.
Absolutely wonderful.
Everything
wonderful.
goes.
Good. Let's do this. Dr. T, love you, man, for all you do. Your leadership is impeccable as always. To each of you, thank you for this. What we're going to do, we're going to go out on a video that I did just on my getting my shot today. And that'll be it for the cutting edge.
All right.
Did you cry? You didn't cry, did you?
Unmute and roll that video. Here we go.
Try to relax.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
This is the best shot because it'll never hurt. Relax. The only shot that never hurt. There you go.
All right.
Relax, Omar. Relax, Mr. Mayor.
Right.
Did he flinch yet? Did he flinch?
He tried not to flinch.
Would y'all just stop talking so you can hear what's going on?
Oh.
Absolutely. It's like a piece of cake. I mean, I didn't even know. You finished yet? Ah, that's wonderful. This is everybody needs to get your booster. If you've not gotten your first shot, you need to get your first shot, then your second shot, then you need your booster. This is my second booster. And so we're so excited to get it and to feel protected. And this is all it's about, just to help to protect you to live through this pandemic. Thanks very much. You got the power.
All right.
Right. You know they're using a smaller needle now. You know that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Baby needle.
Yeah. I thank you all. I thank you all so much for all you do. It's so important that we promote our protection and that we become examples. More is caught than is taught. People learn best by precept and example, and you can't teach what you don't know, and you can't lead where you don't go. And saying that, I leave you with these two words. Remember that I love you with a perfect love. But more importantly, remember this, you got the power. Thank you for joining with us on this segment of The Cutting Edge, and we'll see you next week, same time, same station.
Pure love.
Bye-bye.